double booking yourself, or being late, not because you didn't care, but because you truly believed that you had enough time. I call this time optimism. We are really good at that. We're a very optimistic people. You'll see this in a lot of places, that optimism does not always work in our favor, however, and this would be one of those. Hey there, I'm Jorie Houlihan, and this is ADHD and, the podcast for women diagnosed with ADHD later in life who are ready to stop feeling behind and start finding what works for their brains. Because it's not just focus, it's everything. Today, we are talking about ADHD and time blindness. And no, I'm not just talking about being late. I'm talking about the way ADHD impacts our experience of time, how we estimate it, feel it, manage it, or totally lose it. What actually is time blindness? That is a great question. So, time blindness isn't some made-up term or some kind of personality quirk. It's a neurological difference that affects how people with ADHD perceive, track, and interact with time. If you've ever looked at a clock and thought, wait, how did 3 hours just go by? Or maybe you've said, oh, this will just take 10 minutes, and then it ends up eating up your entire afternoon. Sound familiar? It's not bad time management. It really isn't. It is time blindness, and it is incredibly common for people with ADHD. Time blindness is the impaired ability to estimate how much time has passed, how much time is needed, or how long something will take in the future. So basically, ADHD brains live in two time zones. There's now, and there's not now, and not now doesn't exist. Learning that is going to help tremendously. So why does this happen in ADHD brains? ADHD impacts executive function. I think we all know that by now. And time perception is part of that system. So our brains have a harder time estimating how long a task will take, visualizing how long until something is starting, tracking time as it passes, and moving between tasks based on time. We're not ignoring time. We're just not experiencing it the same way that neurotypical people do. All right, so let's get practical. What does this look like in real life, right? Here are some examples of what this might look like for you. Consistently underestimating how long something takes. Unless it is a non-preferred task, and then you chronically overestimate how long it takes. But generally speaking, we underestimate most things, like thinking you can clean your entire house before your guests arrive in less than an hour. Yeah, you can't. I've tried. Feeling like 5 minutes and 45 minutes feel exactly the same until it's too late. Losing time in hyperfocus. You start on one thing, and then the next thing you know, it's dark out, and hopefully you were working on the right thing. Or maybe it is waiting to start until it feels urgent. Okay, so raise your hand if you were that last-minute term paper person. That was me. I was that person. And this is because you can't feel how close a deadline is until it's practically on fire in front of you. Always needing a countdown or external pressure to kick you into motion. Double booking yourself, or being late, not because you didn't care, but because you truly believed that you had enough time. I call this time optimism. We are really good at that. We're a very optimistic people. You'll see this in a lot of places, that optimism does not always work in our favor, however, and this would be one of those. Do any of these sound familiar? They probably do. And believe me, you are not alone. And you're not irresponsible. You have a brain that needs time to be visual, not assumed. Okay, so let's talk about what helps. Now, I'm not talking about fixes because we're not broken. We just need support. Okay, so the first thing is, number one, make time visual. If you know me at all, you know I love my little visual timer here. See, I can see how much time is left. I strongly discourage digital anything. All things analog. Digital shows you one moment in time. Analog shows you the whole picture. And I don't just mean timers. I mean the regular clocks in your house. Analog clocks are so good for ADHD brains. So this is the kind of thing you want. You want the visual timers. You want analog clocks, as I just mentioned, hourglasses, or some kind of time trackers that allow you to see the time moving. And even though I know some of you will say, well, you can kind of see the timer moving, like if it's digital, it's still not the same thing. Seeing this color works for our brains better than just seeing a number passing. So then there are also apps, if you need to go digital, there are apps like Time Timer, visual calendars, and color-coded day blocks that just help make time more concrete, more visible, and less abstract. Time for us is abstract at best. So we are always looking for ways to just make it feel more concrete and more real. And these are ways that you can do that. You also want to use external anchors. So tie tasks to events, not time. Instead of saying, I'll do that at 3 p.m., say, I will do that after lunch. You want to think when this, then that logic, if that makes sense. If you're a parent, you probably know that. When you do this, then we'll do this. You got to do the same thing with yourself. And the reason you want to do this is because if you say, I'll do this at 3, and maybe you are running behind, your brain is it's going to overwhelm you almost immediately. So it's just better to link it to events versus the time itself. Now, obviously, if you have a work meeting at a specific time, you'll have to work with that. But for things that are in your control, that's what I would recommend. You also want to set alarms in layers. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you is label your alarms, your reminders, etc. I would get to a point where I just had bings and dings and timers and all this stuff going off. I'm like, I don't even know what these things are for anymore because I didn't have them labeled. It just said timer. So I want you to label your timers. I know you can do it on iPhone. I'm assuming you can do it on Android. And you want to have a timer to get yourself to start, a timer to make sure you're staying on track, and a timer to wrap things up. The reason you want the one in the middle is because sometimes, I mentioned earlier, hyperfocus, and then all of a sudden, and I said, hopefully you're working on the right thing, because sometimes, especially if maybe your work is online and you're doing some research, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh wait, I've gone down a rabbit hole and I've just lost 3 hours. So if you have these timers going off in the middle to say, hey, what are you working on? You can say, why is this timer going up? Oh, am I working on what I'm supposed to? I am. Great. Let's get back to it. And if not, oh, shoot, let's get back to it. Either way, it works. And you get bonus points if your alarms are funny or kind. Like, hey, love, let's just wrap things up now, right? Just make it fun. You also want to plan with padding. Now, one of the first things I do with my private clients is I have them track their time. And they have to write it out. Don't just keep it in your head. Externalize your thoughts. That's a different episode. But you want to always externalize your thoughts. In other words, another version of analog. Anyway, and when they track their time, they write down how long they think it will take, their estimation of it, how long it actually took, and then the difference. Usually I get the response of, I knew I was off. I didn't know I was that off. Until you get the hang of it, until you start to do that and you start to get a better idea of how long tasks take you to do on the regular. If you think a task is going to take 15 minutes, give yourself time for 30 minutes. Just double whatever the time is. The other part of this is you want to add buffer time. Now, while that will also give you a little extra time in case that 30 minutes wasn't enough versus the 15, it's really designed more to start giving you transition time. We struggle with transitions, moving from one kind of task to another, moving from one type of event to another, etc. And having that transition time, and we're going to do an episode just on transitions because it is actually a really big deal and most people don't realize that's part of ADHD. But when you give yourself that extra time, it's sort of like allowing your brain to clean its palate to move you on to the next thing, if that makes sense. It's like eating a little ginger before you try the next dish. Anyway, so you want to have buffer time for that. The other thing I recommend is I have this on Wednesdays. It's like a midweek catch-up day. So on Wednesdays, I give myself 2 hours where I have nothing planned and nobody can schedule during that time. And I have that because sometimes earlier in the week, things happen that are not your fault. Maybe you were in a meeting that could have been an email and it went 2 hours instead of the 1 hour that it was allotted for. And now all those things that you had planned after that meeting had to wait, right? And now you're going, oh my gosh, where am I going to fit this into my week? You'll fit it in on Wednesday. And then that helps you reduce the mental load of having to remember. And it just reduces the stress of, oh my gosh, I'm behind. Because we always feel like we're behind. This is a way that will allow you to get caught up and not feel so overwhelmed by it. And then the last suggestion is you want to label time with language that you feel. So instead of 30 minutes, say the length of a podcast episode, or just enough time to unload the dishwasher and scroll once. You want to translate time into experiences that your brain will understand. Saying a specific amount of time, remember what I said before, right? 5 minutes and 45 minutes for a lot of us feels exactly the same. But you knowing how long your podcast lasts, you know what that feels like better than 30 minutes. Okay, so try that too. Okay, so let's be honest. Time blindness is not something that is going to get resolved with one hack. And again, it's not something that we're trying to fix because, first of all, you have this for life. You just do. But you can improve on it. And so you just need that extra support. But it takes time to figure out what works for you. Time is something that you just keep noticing and adjusting for and working around with creativity and self-compassion. I want you to go into this with the lens of curiosity. Instead of judging yourself if maybe you try one of these tactics and it doesn't work. And first of all, when you try new tactics, new strategies, give them some time to work, okay? Please. But if it really genuinely doesn't work for you, it's not a failure on your part. It's just, it doesn't work for your brain. That's it. There's nothing to it. And when you are looking at these through the lens of curiosity and going, okay, let's see what works here. And then saying, this worked really well until this point, and then it didn't work. So let's see what we can tweak. Maybe we just need to make a little adjustment, or maybe just the whole system doesn't work and you do need to start over. But you know what? That's okay, because now you know. It is not a moral failing. It just doesn't work for your brain. And that is okay. So I really want you to be in that place of curiosity and self-compassion. It's so important for all of this. We sometimes are our own worst bullies. And this is an area where I see it a lot. Your brain is just, again, you got the Mac brain, but you've been using the PC manual. So you have to figure out how your timer works. That's all. So if you do find yourself running late, forgetting the time, or spending 3 hours researching dog sweaters, it's okay. Just take a breath. You're not bad at time. Your brain just wasn't built to manage it invisibly. All right, so if this episode made you feel seen or gave you something new to try, I'd love it if you'd follow the show, leave a review, or send it to a friend who's also tired of feeling like she's, quote unquote, bad at time. Until next time, try making time more visible, build in those buffers, and stop expecting yourself to just know when to start. You deserve supports that work for your brain. This is ADHD and with Jorie Houlihan, because it's not just focus, it's everything. Stay curious.